Hello. I am being a good student, and I was up here checking the calendar, and I see that coming up on Monday, we have a couple of assignments coming due. One is an R homework 2 assignment. I don't know why it says not ready yet, but it probably shouldn't say that. But um, and being a good student, I want to get a jump on things because R can sometimes take a while to get down. So I'm going to hit that to go there, and it takes me to the assignment. It's also in the week 3 folder. It's on the very first one of the very first things in the week 3 folder. And it says this is a paper or show your work assignment, and we have some instructions. So I'm going to download those. And what we're going to do is we're going to do create some graphs to make comparisons between different variables, and I'm going to show you how to do that in R. And we're going to create scripts again. Scripts are very useful because you can come back and use them again. It just saves a series of commands that you saved, that you executed, so that you can do that again. So first off, I need to get the data into I need to download the data, and luckily the data is right here. So it's also in this assignment, so I will download that, and it's downloaded, I believe, to my downloads folder. That's my default saving location. And so let's hop into RStudio. I'm going to start by importing that data set. It's always one of the first things that we want to do, and it was in downloads. And this one right here, homework 2. And there it is. Row headings. It looks like I've got headings across the rows, and my separator is set to be a comma. That's perfect. And then I need to get down to the import button, and on my computer, I have to start up here like in the comment button, hit the tab button until it gets me down here. I've tried resizing this window, and I just can't get it to resize so that I can see that import. So there it is. It imports the data. Alright, and then I want to start a new script. So I'm going to do file, new file, new file, R script. Alright, and the directions say where do my directions go? They're in the PDF. They should be here. Nope, they're right here. This tab. Alright, so I want to add the 2 following commands. Data equals RHW2, and head data and equals 3. And I should be able to, if I'm lucky, just to copy, highlight it, copy, and then go back to RStudio and paste that stuff in there. Control V. Alright, so we've got those 2 commands in there. And what the first command does is it renames the data. I've got imported the data set RHW2. I'm going to call it data. The default name for this is whatever you named your file, and sometimes we have really long names for our files. So a lot of times, rather than typing that file name over and over again, it's really nice to rename your data. So I'm going to rename my data as, I'm going to rename the file, or well, the data set, which was the same as the file name, into data. So let's run that script just to see what it does. And not a whole lot happened, but it did happen to rename. And then this head command shows you down here in the console window just the first 3, n equals 3, it's going to show you the first 3 lines of that data. And that's showing up just kind of like what I had before. I've got some sex values, male, female, MF. I've got some height values that I believe are in inches. Some visions, whether they're using glasses or contacts, or no corrections is also an option in that column. Your goal grade, and then the class hour is what time you signed up to take the class. This is data collected from a first day survey. I don't think it was necessarily the quarter that you are enrolled in right now, but it is data from one of those first day student data that I collected on the first day. So I want that. Alright, so I got that in there, and I've done those scripts. I've generated the R values like it says, and I should see that screen, and that's pretty much what I saw. So that's good. Alright, so we're going to start off with side-by-side box plots. I'm going to look at two different quantitative variables. Well, a quantitative variable broken out by a gender sort of things. And there's two different ways the data can be organized. And how you do this depends on how that data is organized. One way is where you have individual responses, and that's what I have in this problem, where you've got, one column generates the sex, another column gives you the height, another column gives you the vision status, the other column gives you the goal grade. So each row there is responses from a single individual. The first person that replied said that they were female, they were 66 inches tall, they wore contacts, they want a goal of getting a 4.0, and they're in the 9 o'clock class. So that's kind of what it says there. There's also information down here about what if your data is summarized. There's a little bit different command, but we'll get to those commands in a little bit. But in this case, the data is summarized. We're still looking at heights and gender, but what I have is I'll have all the male heights in one column and all the female heights in another, instead of individual responses. So I had a male say 36, or 66, I had a male say 70, I had a female say 66, a different female said 67. So it's all organized in that direction kind of thing. But I'm looking at this one where I've got individual data. That's the way our data is responsive, and I need to put in this script here, and the hashtags at the beginning of that. Get just the script. Okay, I'm getting a little bit more than the script. I'm going to have to delete a little bit of that when I copy and paste. Sometimes my little touchpad thing doesn't work as nicely as a mouse would, but I got to do with it. So I don't want this last little bit here in there. So the lines that start with a hashtag are comments, so that when I come back through and look at this thing later, I'll remember exactly what that what this one. This was again the unsorted data where you have height in one column, sexes in another column, and we're looking at that. So my call sequence is Boxplot. The file name that I'm coming from, or my data set that I'm coming from, is data. The $sign tells me then what column I want to work out of that. I want to take the height column, and then this little tilde mark here indicates that the other variable that I'm looking at is we're going to break this down by sex, and again that's coming from the sex column out of the data, the sex variable out of that data set things. If I hadn't renamed the title up here, instead of data, I'd have to type in whatever the file name was. And so data is nice short 4-letter things. Hopefully it's easy to use. That's why it's there. I got a main is your main overall heading. X label, of course, is going to be the label on the X axis. Y is going to be the Y label on the Y axis. And I think that's all that's in there. It kind of wrapped around. It's a little hidden there. But let's just run that data and see what happens. Here's the run button. And there's my plot that I end up with. There's my height by sex. Breaks it down by gender, heights of females versus heights of males. And I hope that that relationship is not surprising to you, that in general men are taller than women. I hope you can see that there, that the median here for men is right in this area, just under 70, but the median for women is just 63, 64 kind of thing. And in fact, 75% of females are shorter than half the males, so are below that average male height there, according to the data that we collected anyway. All right, so that's that script. I'm going to add one more thing. That's how we make a side-by-side box plot. If we have the sorted data, let me jump back to my directions. It will tell us, yep, see there we get the box plot that we're getting there. If you have summarized responses, I want to use this script. And I'm going to put these both in the same script, and that way I can kind of decide, use that header command when I'm using this again. If I've got some different data I want to analyze and want to make 2 box plots on it, I already have this data, and I can just adjust these a little bit. So I'm going to put this in here, sorted data, heights of females in one column, heights of males in another. That's my comment here. It kind of wrapped, but that's all right. can wrap or not. And this one, it's almost the same exact call sequence, but I've got to have a comma in between the two when it's sorted. I just get to say this is one set of data and that's another set of data separated by a comma instead of the tilde. That's really the only difference between those two. Of course, if I try to run this, I'm going to get an error because my data is not sorted that way. Let's do it anyway just for fun. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, all sorts of warnings down there. No plot showing up because I've got no data. I don't have data organized in that way. My data was organized the other way, so it's not going to generate that. It can give you all sorts of red ink down there. All right, let's save this set of directions. Whoops. What am I doing? Cancel. I want to go. Yeah, it should be up here. Save. That's the system default, I guess. We'll just do that. Or do I want to do the save as? Does the save as do something? I'm not used to having that system default thing there. Alright, we'll just do system default. Alright. And then I want to give it some sort of name. So this is my side-by-side box plot script. And we're going to save that in my documents folder apparently. So that's where that gets saved. And yeah, we're done with that script. Alright, so that was the first part of our assignment, was to create a script for doing side-by-side box plots. The next part of our assignment is to create, I'm not going to go back to the thing because I know what it says. I wrote it, or I modified it, or whatever I did. I'm going to just go ahead and do File, Create New, if I can get my touchpad to work the way I want it to, RScript. And this one's going to be for making clustered bar charts. Let's see, go back to this, yes. Okay, we've got our summarized responses, we did that already in there as well. Alright, so now we're going to do some clustered bar charts. And in this case I put all the script right up at front. So this is all the script we want for this one. We're going to copy and paste it into the new script we generated, or you can type it out yourself if you really want to type and you practice your typing skills and make sure that you're accurate when you type, but that's that same sort of thing. Okay, so I'm going to separate these out just a little bit so they're a little bit easier to read as we go through it. Again, I'm going to start with that same command of where you can rename your file. If you've got a long file name, you might want to rename it something. RHW2 is not that long, but if your data is in a longer name file, you can change it here to data. And then again, I'm going to look at the headings there, so I can see again I got the columns just like we had before, with gender or sex in one column, height in another, vision, goal grade, and then class hour in another one. Alright, and what I want to do is I want to make a table of the data. I want to go through and do this counts command. So I'm going to run this counts command, and then I'm going to, the second one just shows you what's in the counts, what the result of that is. And so what it's done is it's gone through the data and it's counted what I got in terms of responses. It said that in there I had 8 people said that they were female and they wore contacts. There were 9 people that said they were female and wore glasses. There were 17 people that said no correction and female. Of the people that said male, 2 of them said contacts, 13 said they wear glasses, and 10 said they had no corrections. So it just goes through the data and it looks at the second variable that you list here is your explanatory variable. We're looking at we want to compare the distribution of vision status within the female population and the male population to see if there's a difference in those. And so we're looking at the male population as doing that. Alright, our next command, this cond table, is a new object I'm creating, but it's a new set of data kind of thing, new grouping of data. And it's just basically converting my counts, which is the raw counts, into a percentage. This prop.table and counts is set at 2. So let's run that one, and then we'll run the next line and it will actually show us the table. So what it's done is it's converted everything into percentages. That we've got 23.5% of the females said they wear contacts, 26.47% of the females said they wore glasses, etc. Notice that the columns add up to 100%. That's what the 2 is specifying up here. It's making sure that the columns add to 2. If I change this to 1 and run that line again, oops, I got to run it, and then I also have to execute it. Now the rows add to 100. 80% plus 20% is 100%. 62% plus 30, or 62.96% plus 37 is essentially 100% too. Little off maybe because of the rounding. So now the rows go across. But I really want gender to be the explanatory variable. I'm going to make sure that that's the case by going back to making this say a 2. I have to run the scripts again because it changed with those variables. Alright, and then we have our barplots command. There's some comments here about what the boxplot command is doing. I can go ahead and hit run on that. For some reason it didn't catch that that was all one line in there. So it's giving me an error down there. Still, it's supposed to, expecting this is, I'm going to turn it into all into one line here, and then it will be just fine. But it will show up. It's harder to read, but you can use it in R. You can see it here in R a little bit better. Somewhere eventually. There it is. Alright. We'll go ahead and hit run and see what happens there. Well, it's still giving me an error. I've got something in there, an extra parenthesis somewhere in that comment line. I will have to fix that before I actually release this to you. Before I release the document to you. Alright, anyway, bar plots. So what I'm going to do is this bar plot of the conditional table here, the con tab data. The main, again, will be the title of our bar chart. Xlab is X label, Y label is going to go on the X axis, Y label is going to be on the Y axis. This call equals C, that's going to color the columns different colors. There should be a, did this not, I wonder if this is going to run. This is going to give me an error. Yeah, it's giving me an error because it didn't capture this all as one row. So I do need to go back and kind of put this all into one row. There's something not connecting in here in WAMAP. So I don't think it's a problem with the documentation. I think it's a problem with the copy paste sort of thing. Alright, so now let's try it. And I've got green, legend equal row name counts. That's good. So that means the legend that it generates is going to based on the row names. And that was our table had the, if I scroll back up here a little bit, our legend's going to have the C, G, and NC as in correct contacts, corrective legends. Let's see, did I get it working? Yes, I got it working. Alright, so that set the legend over here as C, G, and NC. And we get a nice plot there so we can compare the use there. And kind of what stands out to me just as I'm looking at this is that the percentage of females that choose to wear contacts seems to be a lot bigger than the percentage of males. And the percentage of males wearing glasses seems to be almost twice the size as the percentage of females. So apparently females feel the need or choose to wear contacts more, and males choose to wear glasses more, at least based on the data we got in our class. I don't know how well that extrapolates. And then the percentage of people that have no corrections, it looks like In general, women have a little bit better eyesight than men. It's not doesn't seem to me relative size-wise. It doesn't seem to be as big a difference as we have between the contacts and no contacts, and the glasses and no glasses, sorts of things. But it's a kind of interesting comparison that you can make there between those two. All right, I want to save that. I'll just hit that save button, and oh, it didn't ask me base, but I'm going to do the same thing. And this is a clustered bar chart script, clustered bar chart script in there. All right, clustered bar chart script in there. So it gives us those various steels in there. So a couple of things about what you see in this command. The one thing that I had to kind of struggle with was this ARGS legend that is controlling the placement of the legend there, and it's putting it over here at the x coordinate would be 9.1, the y component is 45. I'm not quite sure where 9.1 comes with. I just played around with numbers until it looked about right. I think the 45 is lining up with the 45% here on the horizontal axis. I had to play around with that because if I left that out, it was pasting the legend right over the top of the graphics, and so I had to mess around with that to get it to show in the right spot there as well. So you might have to, depending on how your computer resolution is. Again, I've had other people that didn't have the problem with it, using just the default, leaving this command out. But if yours is being weird, you might want to play around with that. All right, so those are the two scripts we wanted to generate, the side-by-side box plot and the clustered bar chart. And the assignment has a couple of questions for you. Whoop, that's not the assignment. Has a couple of questions for you down at the bottom. This kind of talks about all that stuff. There's the bar charts. We want you to run through the directions above and use the copy and clipboard and paste into your document, just a single document, your side-by-side box plot of height versus sex and the vision status versus sex plots. So I'm going to go and export to the clipboard. Well, let's do the other one first. That one was the one we did first. So if you move back here with the back arrows, you can get back to your previously generated plots. It took me a while to figure that one out, but that's kind of a nice thing. So I'm going to copy that to my clipboard, copy plot, and then go into a Word document and our homework 2. I'm going to make sure to put my name in here so that when, just in case if my instructor is looking at it, he can tell who it came from. And let's paste in that plot. That's awfully big. It's taking up a lot of space. Let's make it a little bit smaller here. So there's that one. And then let's paste in my other assignment. This is, by the way, this is question 1A. And question 1B is to put in the other plot. I'm going to go back to RStudio, go find my other plot. There's my other plot. Export to the clipboard, copy plot, and let's go put it here in my Word document. There's my Word document. Control V for paste. It's in there, okay? And so that's the second one. Again, this one's kind of large. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Make it a little bit smaller so it's not taking up so much space. All right, question 2 and question 3, they're in this document. Question 3 says we want to look at the association between sex and goal grade. And so I want you to create a graph comparing goal grade or by sex. And again, it should only require some minor changes to one of the scripts we've already generated. you should be able to come in here and change the data names in whichever one of these scripts you want to work with. And a good idea there to think about what type of data that it is that we're dealing with. We can look at that head command, data n equals 3, gave us a little picture of that data. There it goes. A little picture of that data, and think about, well, what if I'm looking at goal grade versus gender, what type of variables are there, and is it appropriate to do a bar chart, or is it appropriate to do a box plot with that data? And then that's one graph, and to do whatever one I'm going to do, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in here and edit the column names, the data variable, they call them variable names, the variable names, so that instead of dealing with whatever it was I was dealing with before, I want to do one of these other headings: sex, height, vision, goal grade, whatever that is. And that's all you have to do to change those. You don't have to rewrite the values. That's the real power of scripts, is that you can just edit those little pieces and run the script over again in there. Alright, so that was one assignment, was to do sex versus goal grade, and the other is sex versus class hour. Class hour is really a categorical variable, something to note there, right? It's not a number. You wouldn't average together people's class hours, right? It's a number that we use to group people. All right, so generate 2 more graphs. You want to generate a graph, and then you also want to talk about any sort of associations. Is there an association between sex and your goal grade? What does the data kind of show? There may be no relationship, or it might show some sort of differences in there, and so that's what I want to see. And then same sort of thing with the sex and the class hour. Is there something in there that you want to look at? All right. Good luck. If you have questions, you can always ask in the homework forum, and I'll do my best to help out.